We are really happy to have you here tonight. We have been recording videos for our upcoming conference all day long, so I'm fried, I'll be honest. So that's a good thing, right? And I am just happy to have Kristi here tonight. Laura Gordon is planning on being here. We'll keep an eye out. She's if she's able to get in. And you know what, with Zoom and all the things that can happen on Zoom, it could be a million reasons. So it's okay. I invited people to come in tonight that have led co-ops over the years and have experience with co-ops. I have been in several co-ops myself that have never led one, and I'm going to be honest with you guys up front tonight that I'm not that great at co-ops. It's just, I was telling Kristi about this just a few days ago. It's, I think it might just be my personality. I'm a little bit of a introvert, I guess, and I prefer to just keep me and my kids home during the week. So I have received a lot of questions from other moms about how to get a co-op started. And it seems to be really common right now. In Michigan, all of our restrictions for COVID are lifting, and co-ops can get started again for this coming school year. And so, of course, we're getting questions about co-ops. And I have questions myself as to how you would make it work as a Torah observant family with different calendars, different beliefs. Do you try to open it up to the homeschooling community at large in your area, or do you try to just go for Torah families? And how do you make curriculum work with that? Homeschooling Torah's curriculum, like a lot of others, is about 36 weeks long, and most co-ops don't go that length. So that's some questions we're going to talk about tonight. And then how to find a co-op, how to find good friends, how to find friends for our children, how to, how would I say it, make sure that even though it's a co-op that you have good influences on your own children. So those are just some topics that I want to talk about, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation. So if you guys have questions, there are a couple ways you can answer or ask questions on Zoom. If you kind of hover over the bottom of your screen, you can see that there's a spot to chat, and you're welcome to chat and put your questions there. Or if you want to raise your hand, I think there's a spot there. I'm not sure if it showed up or not. If you want to unmute and ask a question, I'm good with that. So this is just our chance to be informal and talk to each other. So please feel free to do that. And don't feel like you can't interrupt us. So, Kristi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Good. I want you to tell them about yourself because I know you, but tell them how many years you've been homeschooling and how many kids you have left in homeschooling. That would be a good place to start.
So my name's Kristi Stogsdill, and I have been homeschooling, it seems like forever. This fall will be starting my 26th year mostly consecutive homeschooling. And my children are between the ages of 27 and 9. I have 4 kids. My oldest is 27, and we started when she was 2 with homeschool. And let's see, my next daughter's 23, and my son is 20, and then I have a 9-year-old. So I'll probably be homeschooling for quite some time.
Exactly. It's a good thing, though. And how much has it changed over the years? Because I know for me, homeschooling, the whole thing has changed. I mean, it's like a different atmosphere. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think I've gone through so many cycles of trying the next new thing or the best, supposedly the best thing from reviews. And I've gone to homeschooling conferences over the years and always sought out Christian curriculum, but I've gone the gamut of, more like a Becca type, private school type Christian curriculum, Bob Jones, to Konos, trying to do it yourself, build everything, really teacher intensive. So I've experienced, I think just about every possible type of curriculum. So yeah, it's really changed over the years, but I think I've gotten into a groove a while back, and I feel like I know the things that I like, and even though there's new stuff that comes out all the time, I feel like I've gotten into a rhythm that's good for my family. So,
if anyone else wants to enter in the chat and tell how long you've been homeschooling and what ages your kids are, that would be so nice because we would love to know that about you. So feel free to do that. I have 7 kids, but I'm only going to be homeschooling 3 this year, which is crazy. Our family just keeps shrinking and shrinking. And I'll have an 11th grader, a 8th grader, and a 6th grader. So that's just weird, but no little ones. So anyway, Kristi, you have been involved in co-ops for a long time. I think you mentioned classical conversations, but what else? What is your experience with co-ops, and why do you like them?
Why do I like them? That's the big question, right? So I've been involved in classical conversations for a very short period as far as the co-op is concerned. I actually started a co-op when my oldest daughter was 7. And I called it the training ground. And my desire has always been in co-ops to help foster an environment for godly comrades and like-minded believers for my children to grow up with. Now, we've moved several times over the course of homeschooling. And so that dream of creating, like that lifelong friendship hasn't really happened just because we've moved so many times. So we've started co-ops many different places because of that. And so the first one I had started, we used some of the classical conversations, just memory work, but it wasn't a classical conversations per se, it wasn't part of the actual program. But we always offered the core curriculum, core subjects, and then we offered extracurricular as well. But worship and prayer has always been a big part of it. And I guess what I like best about it is creating an atmosphere where my kids feel like they're not the only ones doing what we do. And I think that comes even more into play, at least for my family and the circles we've been in, as we've started walking this Torah route, because there's even less people, it seems, that are on this path. And so I want my kids to recognize and be around other people that have the same beliefs, just to kind of strengthen their resolve that this is a good thing and we're not alone.
Absolutely. When we did co-ops for the first time, my children were very small. My oldest was 5 when we joined our first co-op. And so there were a lot of preschoolers in the group that we were in. And it was really cool to see into the lives of other families. And, especially back then, homeschooling was not popular. And to see families in our church, they were all sending their kids off on the bus for school, and we were not, and it felt very alone. And so just to have that once a week time to know that there were other weird people in the world, that was just really comforting. It really was. Yeah. Okay. So what have been some of the biggest blessings of the co-ops over the years for you? Like, if you could look back and anything that stands out in your mind that, wow, it would never have happened if you hadn't had that friendship. Anything you can think of?
Yeah, there's a couple things. For my family, my kids are really far apart in age. And so they didn't always have that buddy, to play with, because my first 2 are 4 years apart, and then 3 years apart, and then 10 years. And so we didn't have the group dynamic in the same way that you can have in a classroom. And so I think some of the really exciting things were, especially at the junior high school level, was when we would do plays, or we would do debates, or we would do worship times. And it was the camaraderie that took place, I couldn't create in my home. And so, they would have some of that at church, but it was in a totally different setting, and I wasn't a part of it. So I think that was really good. The worship and prayer times, worship and prayer has always been foundational in any co-op that I've been a part of. And one of my favorite co-ops, we had 125 students in, and we had 5 student-led worship teams, and they were full band, and we had different parents that were helping to train up all them. That was really fun to see them stretch and grow and encounter the Lord. It was really good. And I guess another really cool thing we did was we had a back-to-school weekend retreat, and it was 3 days at the high school level. And we had the junior high kids come in, and we made Tent City, and we did a lot of team building stuff. We did a lot of discovering your strengths and weaknesses and spiritual giftings, and learning how we fit together as a team. And so some of that was pretty exciting, because we probed into the different students' gifts and callings, and what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and you might be a leader, but are you really sharp with your words, and how can we work together to make you more into the image of Christ as you learn to operate in your gifts. And so those are some of the highlights. And I think as far as outwardly for me, I love getting involved in people's families and helping and seeing moms who feel like they can't do it, or that everything's falling apart and they're overwhelmed, like giving them some tools, some practical tools, and just seeing them blossom and come alive. And now they carry the vision. And I love imparting vision. So those are some of the highlights for me.
I don't know if anyone else is thinking this, because again, I already told everyone that I'm not very good at this. So like wave at me if you feel this way too, but are you wondering what kind of gifting and talents Kristi has that, well, I don't know, Kristi, were you the leader of these co-ops, or were you just a parent? You had 100 and some students.
I was one of the leaders at the high school level, but I was in charge of most of the high school activities and the leadership training for the high school kids, but I was part of a leadership team. There was another lady, her name was Sue. She was actually the director of the co-op, but I was pretty pivotal in helping to form how we did things. So the first co-op I was in, my daughter was in elementary. She was in kindergarten. We were just in that one as participant. But then I started one, and we had about 100 students in that one, and I was the founder and the director over all of it. So
you need to write a book. Okay.
You're a really good writer and editor.
Well, I wanted to know if I could introduce Laura Gordon real quick. She has been able to join us. Laura, do you care if I unmute you? That'd be okay? Let's see if I can.
I do. Hi.
Hi, Laura. How are you? So we've been introduced. We've been talking to Kristi, getting to know her, and we asked her how many kids she had and how long she'd been homeschooling, and then, some of her things that she's been doing with co-ops. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Laura, and I am the mother of 3 wonderful kiddos. Three of them are adults at this point, and our youngest is just turned 14. And just briefly, I started homeschooling my kiddos when they were little, and started a co-op for them. This was, oh my goodness, well, good 22 years ago maybe. And homeschooling wasn't quite as popular at that time. And so it was really almost unheard of, 20-something years ago, to start a homeschool co-op and have that vision of getting together with other moms and kind of what that would look like. And so I was one of the founding moms organizing that together with another 2 wonderful ladies that I knew from church, and we just all kind of had that vision. But it's a lot of work, but it was a wonderful experience. And so I think the first year out, we had somewhere around 300 students and like 60 families. We had a wonderful church to work with. And so that's kind of where I started with homeschooling. And since then I've taken on, several other projects. And anyway, so that's just kind of a beginning for me.
Wow. I'm thinking about the fact that we moved to Michigan in 2014, and this is the first place we've lived where there were more than 1,000 homeschoolers in one county, and it was just mind-blowing that there could be that many homeschoolers, because most of the places we've lived, we literally knew no one else that homeschooled. And so that's been our experience for a lot of the times. A couple different towns we had. When I say I was in a co-op, the co-ops we were in had maybe 3 or 4 families. So I'm like, okay, again, I have no experience. So Laura, you were a part of Classical Conversations. I was asking Kristi about that, but I'm quite sure you were. So did you have to stick to that curriculum, or did you guys kind of branch out and fine tune it for your families, or how did that work for you?
Yes. So we were part of Classical Conversations for probably only 5 years, I believe. And I think I shared with you a while ago that we used your curriculum alongside Classical Conversations to kind of fill in especially on the biblical side. We really liked your all of your Bible curriculum and everything. And so we still use that. And so I, for a while, I was just kind of a parent and sort of observed and watched and saw how they were doing everything. And then eventually I did become a director in eighth grade. And it's very different. So we have not been with Classical Conversations for the last couple of years. I graduated my oldest son through Classical Conversations, and then we have moved on to some other things. I think, Anne, did you mention to anybody that we were trying to get a co-op kind of up and going a couple of years ago before COVID hit?
Oh, I did not mention. So we've been talking, we even got the domain name and we still have it, Kyla Co-op, Kyla meaning together. And yeah, that hasn't gone any further. And I think that's because it's not my gifting, but so it keeps getting pushed down the list, that and maybe concussions and other things. But
yeah.
So yeah, that is, I'm hoping to find, I was going to, at the end tonight, kind of encourage everybody who would like to have a co-op to try to get together online, and I have some suggestions for how we can do that so that everyone can be sharing ideas and get support and how to start co-ops in their areas. So, okay. One of the, let's talk about this, the educational side of co-ops. And Kristi, I'll come back to you for a second if you don't mind. What are some of the age, okay, how do you work it with grades K through 12, and maybe you have even preschool in there? And then how do you, what kind of core subjects, not necessarily the extra enrichment activities, but what core subjects do you include, and how does that work? Do you combine grades, or how do you, just tell us a little bit about how it works for you.
Well, the co-ops that I've been part of and helped to either start or lead, we always start with the high school because they have certain state requirements. And so what we do is we find a group of parents who are interested in doing a co-op, and then we start asking them, we get together, have a meeting, and we ask them what do their kids need for high school. So it all starts out with the core group of people that we're going to work with. What do our kids need? And we start with the basics with math and science and English and history. And those are the 4 that we try to make sure we have. And then anything else is just kind of extra icing on the cake. But we start asking around within the group who has skills and talents. Does your husband, like we had doctors that would teach biology and anatomy. You know, we had a chemist who came in and that she was a mom and she taught chemistry. So it was just a real blessing. But I found over the years that every time we start a group, it seems like the things that we need, the teachers, the father just brought the right people in, and it always just worked out. And so from there, we always started with our core group of moms, found out what their high schoolers need, and from there, what are their ages of their children, because most of the time, at least in the groups I was a part of, we had moms with kids from nursery all the way to high school. And we had several moms who had between like 7 and 12 kids, you know, and so that's a whole lot of kids. And so we started and we worked our way backward and then made sure that we had something available for all kids, all ages, while we were making sure our high schoolers got what they needed. And so our main focus was on the academics there, but then we also wanted to have strong academics from preschool all the way through. So the Lord just provided is all I know how to tell you. We would get together, we would pray, and we would talk about it and make sure that the core people who are going to be doing the most teaching all their kids were covered as much as we possibly could.
Awesome. That really is. I would never have thought of starting at high school, and that makes perfect sense because those are the most intimidating subjects, I think, for most of us as homeschool moms, you know, that we have not thought about algebra in a very long time. And the thought of having to do that day after day. Now, these were once a week co-ops that you were doing? Yeah. Okay.
There was only one that I met for twice a week, and that was one that very early on. But yeah, once a week, and it was always a full day. For us, we had option for half day, morning, or afternoon. So I tried to structure when we had set it up. We would choose all the curriculum. It wasn't, you know, like stepping into a plan where everything's chosen for us, but we chose everything based on the needs. And then we would have core in the morning and then tried to have extracurricular in the afternoon so that people could have choices if they just wanted to participate in one or the other.
That makes good sense. Laura, how about you? Is that sound like what it happened for you, or was it entirely different?
There's some similarities. There was a group of 3 of us, and yeah, I definitely agree with Kristi. We spent a lot of time in prayer, so it didn't just happen overnight. We met weekly, me and the other 2 moms, and we spent a lot of time just organizing, thinking about classes that we wanted to offer, just the logistics of all of that, what it was going to look like, and of course just being very prayerful through all of it, and being very patient because it, like I said, it didn't happen overnight. And so, we talked about our vision, monetary things, how parents would be involved. And so for our particular co-op, we encouraged the moms to, if they weren't comfortable with teaching, that they could, we would want like an assistant. And so one of the things that I learned over the years was it's better to have 2 parents in the classroom than just one. And if any of you have ever had any classical conversations, interactions, there's only one adult in the classroom. There can be things that really are challenging, and it's certainly better to have more than one adult in each classroom. And so, so we always had 2 parents present. And then the other thing that we did is we offered to the moms Bible studies at the church, so that way they wouldn't like leave campus. They would stay and they would have time to fellowship. We also offered some time of prayer together. We had a group called Heartbeats, and that was specifically designed for just women getting together to pray for their husbands and their families. And so again, we encourage the moms to stay on campus, participate either in the classroom or in one of these Bible studies, and not just be like a drop and go kind of thing. And that way, the families were involved, the parents were involved in some way. We also hired some teachers in areas, especially in the high school level, that we needed someone who was higher educated or more comfortable with, say, higher level mathematics, sciences, and things like that. So it just kind of all depended on the need. But we went from high school all the way down to having an area for the toddlers and the babies to hang out while the parents were involved with the day, the homeschool day. So fortunately, we had a very large church to work with and lots of classrooms, and it was overall just a really positive experience, but it did take a long time to put together and work through and work the plan. And we had a lot of great support along the way with our husbands, as well as like a board. The men kind of like formed a board just to resolve issues and things like that. And And so just only great memories from that season.
Oh, that's, in our town here, there are several churches that rent their buildings out to homeschool co-op. So I just wanted to mention that because if someone that's watching is looking for a place to meet, church building really is ideal. It's got the classrooms. Oftentimes they have gymnasiums and, playgrounds outside and things like that. So don't be shy about calling them up and asking. Especially I've noticed in our area, everything was shut down for COVID here in Michigan, but now that it's back open again, a lot of them, their finances are hurting. So if you can rent a building once a week, that will be a blessing to them. And they're not as likely to be picky about the fact that you, do Jewish holidays and things like that. So be brave and call them up and see if you can find a place. So speaking of, though, both of you are mentioning meeting in churches, and I know that we all come from a Christian background, and now we are trying to find families who are more Torah minded, and not even caring if we talk about Homeschooling Torah or Foundations Press at all here, but just how do you find other families that are like-minded? And how do you find families that aren't going to push Christmas? Or how do you find families that if you did a drama presentation aren't going to want to bring in magic? Because that was an issue here in our town.
Mm-hmm.
There were co-ops, but they were doing, every single play they did was full of magic. And so besides the fact that most of them were having their plays on Friday nights and Saturdays. So and I know this is really hard, Laura shaking your head. Any thoughts? How do you find other families?
Well, Laura and I were talking about this the other day, and we I guess it depends on what your calling is, because if you're called to go out into the church and to reach those people, then the dynamics are going to be very different. And like for us, we recently moved to Tennessee to be part of a community because we wanted to live around like-minded believers. We wanted our young adult children to find spouses that have the same belief systems. And so for us, we've been planning to come here and be part of the co-op that's been going here for 4 years, for the last 4 years. So, we're blessed to be in a community that is, we have about 250 people in our congregation, and the co-op has been going for a while, and so everybody's already on the same calendar. We're already walking together. And I think that's one of the things for me is if I'm wanting, to create this atmosphere for my own children and have camaraderie, it's not that I don't want to share about the Torah. I definitely do. But for me, I want it to be like-minded people. And as far as finding them, like you said, you've been in a smaller towns where there's only 1,000 homeschoolers, and probably 90% of them or better are Christian homeschoolers. So I think finding the people is the biggest challenge, is finding your core of who do you want to do life with. Because for me, doing co-op together and having regular interaction, these are the people that I want my kids growing up with. So I think Laura and I have different callings on that, and so she can probably share her thoughts.
Yeah, good question. So, our family spent 7-8 years with a Messianic community up in Jacksonville. I'm in Florida, and so a couple of years ago we were called to Orlando, and so we left that community, but we live a Torah-centered life, but our calling as a family is actually to really build bridges between the church, the Jewish community, the Messianic Jewish community, and part of understanding what separates us is really being in both places. So I've been a believer for over 30 years. And so the first 20-something years of my walk with the Lord was in the church. And the last 10 plus years has been in the Messianic community. And so he kind of he showed me, after bringing me through a lot of different things, that being a part of the Christian community is a necessity. Especially that's our calling. So everybody's going to have a different calling. But kind of building bridges. So to give you an example, when we were part of Classical Conversations, we didn't stop observing, the feasts. We worked everything into our calendar. And we actually invited families over to our home that had never done Passover, didn't know anything about what it meant or how it tied to their faith. And so throughout the year, we used our homeschooling families within those links to Classical Conversations as people there, and kind of started opening their eyes more, I think, on, God's feasts. And so we've built some great friendships around that. And, we continue to strive to reach the church and help them understand why the feasts and Torah are still such a valuable part of our walk with the Lord. And so the Christian school that my son goes to now, which is 2 days on campus and 3 days at home, so it's kind of like a hybrid homeschool situation, we still kind of do the same thing. We invite families over. We share about the Torah. We answer questions about Torah and being Torah observant. And so I guess we're just not really our family just isn't called at this point to be in a solely Torah focused homeschool group. And so I share that just so that way others know, it doesn't all have to look alike. And you may be called to do something different than the next person. So just keep your eyes focused on the Lord and really what he's calling you to do.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. And, our family has been thinking a lot about our vision this year, so much so that we're going to have a whole session on it, my husband and I, in our conference. And he's been making a logo for our family. Well, a logo, is that really the kind of what we were thinking was a family crest, because we're Scottish. And but how schools have their emblem and they have it up and it kind of represents everything about them. And that's something that we've been doing as a family this whole summer to try to just put into a picture form who we are and what our callings are. And it's been really fun. And he's been leading that. I'm not artistic, but I would recommend it. And I think that's cool because as Kristi, as her family, and I've known her for quite a few years now, and been watching them as they pray over what they should do and where they should go with their kids. And Laura, I've known you a long time, and you also pray much over your family, and you're strategic about the jobs you take and the places you live and the company that comes over. And I just encouraged that what he's impressed upon me and Elliott may not be what he's impressed on each one of you women and your husbands as you lead your families. And again, to be listening to the Ruach is really, really important. Okay, so let's talk about Homeschooling Torah's curriculum for a second. And it certainly doesn't have to be that. Been in a lot of co-ops myself, and we never used the same one twice. I did once of Classical Conversations, but all the rest of them were kind of eclectic, and we made our own. And so if you did Foundations Press with the printed books, or if you did Homeschooling Torah and you've got 36 weeks, or maybe people want to do the Torah portions that go throughout an entire school year, when do you start the co-op? How do you figure out what you're going to do in class? Laura and I had a lot of conversations about this about a year ago. goodness, what do we assign in class? What do we do together? And now Kristi's
And
been talking
I
about
think
it
it was
too.
like 2
2
years
years
ago.
ago. Could have
You know,
been.
because we kind of lost that whole COVID year, didn't we? It's like
Yes,
it's a
I probably.
total wash. Oh my gosh.
Well, I still
It's been
have my notes.
I do too. I do too. Yeah. We
So,
made some really good progress there.
sort of. I mean, I guess so. Can you tell, like, how would that look? How would you do, what should we pick? Like history? Should we pick ancient history? How would you put that in a co-op?
We're actually in that scenario
Okay.
right now with the co-op that I'm part of. And the whole co-op is not doing Homeschooling Torah. However, the director has allowed me to, the grades that I'm teaching, to do whatever I want. And so I'm doing Homeschooling Torah across the board. And so that's been a challenge because the co-op here usually meets about 27 to 28 weeks depending on how the feasts fall, which is great. We don't have to worry about missing class for feasts. It's because we're all on the same page with that. However, because of the different breaks and because of several of the feast days this year actually land on co-op day, actually I think 4 of them do. So we have to miss several weeks because of that. But what we've decided is on some of those weeks, we're just not going to give homework for that day. We're not going to meet that day for co-op, but we might meet the day before, and we'll still give homework for the other 4 days of the week. But I'm still only at 33 weeks with my 36. So for me being super linear and wanting to finish the book, that's challenging for me. But, you know, at the upper elementary level, which is where my youngest is right now, it's not as crucial as it is at the high school. So, but I'm just going to tell the parents that if they want to finish the book, you know, that's between them and the Lord and what they report to the state, you know. So we'll get to week 33 and then let them continue.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And so when you say you assign homework, do you go through the teacher's guide at the beginning of the week and do the parents read the read alouds at home, or what do you do in class compared to what do you do at home?
Well, I'm still working on that. I've been, like I told you today, I'm creating the student workbook to kind of go alongside the history. And we will be having the parents follow along Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I told them, okay, you've got 3 concentrated teacher days. I'm taking one of them. So you'll have one on either side, and then the kids obviously will have their stuff to do on Thursday, Friday. But the things that we can do in a group, like, I was working on it today, like learning how to do the trade or bartering with trade. We'll have the kids bring stuff, and they'll be reading about it at home, but in class we'll actually set up some kind of a trade, you know, and we're going to do some acting out of things that we couldn't do and put on some plays based on what we're learning, and we're going to create a huge timeline. So the things that I couldn't do with Mercy by myself, like I have Mercy and just been Mercy for several years because my next son is 20, you know, so I haven't been able to do Bible drills with her because there's nobody else to race. You know, so we will do Bible drills, you know, and I'm so excited about that. But any of the things in the class that could be done in a group setting throughout the week, I'm just going to let the moms know in advance, hey, you know, don't try to do this at home. We're going to save that for co-op time. But we're going to be reading through whatever would be done on that day and then the additional things in class time. So
that makes sense. Laura, do you have any thoughts to add to that?
I was going to say, can you just repeat that the question again?
Well, sure. How do you decide, like if you have the 5-day lesson plan for Homeschooling Torah, and usually there are 3 days where you're reading aloud at home and then 2 days or maybe making notebooking pages or doing projects. How do you decide what to do at co-op and what to do at home? And yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Good question. Good question. I would say at the co-op, do things that are group more relevant to a group. And as you're kind of preparing your week and your lesson plan, you know, think about, you know, what assignments are or things that the kids can do at home that wouldn't necessarily need a group, and then plan to do things together as a group, just kind of picking those things out. That would be more fun for the students if you did it in a group session, and how you could make the most of that, with other children involved. Because, as y'all know, as homeschool parents, certain things, when you get into labs and science and things like that, it's so much more fun when you're doing that in a group setting as compared to be, at home at your kitchen doing it with your child, and they enjoy it much more as well. And I know, for each subject, it's going to be different, like what you're going to do in class. I enjoyed doing math games with the students, and, things at the board with them and getting them involved when it came to, teaching math, 8th grade math, as compared to just like your assignments that they're doing from day to day, and just figuring out different ways to make it fun and new ways for them to learn and be more comfortable with, the latest math skills and things that are being introduced from week to week that might be new. So I've got a lot of ideas where that goes, but I don't want to go too in depth, but just, think about things that you can do as a group as compared to what, how you would, as compared to what you would actually do at home.
So I was just remembering one of the things that I'm planning out for our class, and right now I'm working in the history program or history curriculum, so I haven't gotten beyond that. But when they have to do research for the different explorers, and we're supposed to imagine that we're doing a history museum, what I'm going to have them do is go home and do the research, come back, and we're going to actually set up a museum. And so they'll have their pictures or whatever research that they've done on their particular explorer, and they're going to get to tell, like they're going to be the curator and tell about their whoever they've been assigned, or whoever, maybe they just choose one, I haven't decided, but probably they'll just choose whatever their favorite is. And so we'll do that. And then also anytime that we're doing a writing assignment or a group writing assignment where we're trying to come together and we're going to be writing little sketches, history sketches for them to do for a drama, then they're going to get up in front of the class and learn how to do public speaking, because that's a little bit harder to do. It's easy when it's just mom there, a lot harder to do when there's a whole classroom. And so teaching them how to stand up and look at the people that are out there and really engage with their topic of whatever they want to share.
Very cool. It makes me just want to come. I mean, honestly, this is cool. I mean, that's saying something. Kristi, that's saying something for me. All right. All right. I would like to open it up for questions. Everyone's been sitting quiet, and I know I have a couple questions on the side. I want to scroll up and make sure that we've answered. But real quick, before I open it up, I want to share my screen and share what a little bit of my heart is for co-ops. And so again, if you don't have any way to have a co-op happen in your area, or if you are in a co-op and you want to share your ideas or get support from others, I just want to plug our community. If you go into Homeschooling Torah, and you do not have to be a member of Homeschooling Torah to come in here. Anyone can join, but you come into the community, and this little button says groups right here. And we do not have a group for a co-op yet. I would like to make one, and actually it'll probably be my daughter that makes it. It's still loading. Sorry, everybody. It's always a little slow when I'm on Zoom. But we have already got some good groups in here. We have our high school kids that are doing speech and literature and writing and stuff together. But I think it would be pretty awesome to open up a co-op group in here where you could discuss ideas, share, or even say, we're in Tennessee and we have a co-op in case someone doesn't even know that. And just things like that to let other people know what's going on around the country. Even I have customers in England, and I know that they were interested in getting a co-op started. So it doesn't have to be in the United States. But anyway, I just wanted to plug that and say, let's get a group started. Let's try to get some talking going on. Or even if you wanted to start an online co-op, like on here, you'd be welcome to. You don't have to have my permission. Zoom hooks in with this community. So if you wanted to have meetings once a week on Zoom on here, if someone is willing to head it up, that would be fantastic. And I do want to emphasize that I don't think I can do it. I probably have a little too much on my plate. And so I don't think I should commit. But if there is someone out there whose calling it is to reach people online or to give support, I do hope that you'll pray about coming on and starting a group. So anyone else have a question? I will quit talking. And if you do, I'm going to scroll up for a second through the chat. But if you just want to hop on right now and just ask a question, just unmute yourself or, yeah, go ahead.
Hey everyone, I'm Sonia from Texas.
Hello.
Hi, Sonia.
Feeling a little overwhelmed and I don't know if I can do this. I'm really new to Torah. I come from a Christian background, which, I mean, it was more of go to church, never really read the Bible. So I'm like really overwhelmed with learning. And it's like I have to unlearn everything I've ever learned. Mm-hmm. Now, the good thing is that we do have a synagogue that I started going to last year and then COVID hit. And I just actually sent a message to to the Facebook group. And I'm like, hey, is there any homeschooling going on? I'm a single mom. I don't really have the support. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It really is. I know what's important now in life is not the money. It's not a career. And I know that I don't want my daughter to go back to school. I'm so grateful that y'all has opened my eyes to the truth. My family and friends think I'm in a cult. They think I'm in a cult. They think I'm in a cult. They can't believe that I have literally walked away from the church system. I come from, what do you call it? The big church, you know, it's all entertainment. It's all entertainment. So, but I do know that I don't want my daughter to go back to her high school for sure. I mean, being in Texas is not as crazy it is in other states, but it's coming. Homosexuality is really shoved down your throat. You have to accept it. Yeah. I just know that I don't want to go back to my old life. And I really want to take care of my family. You know, my son just graduated from high school in May, but I do know that I do not want to send our daughter back to high school because homosexuality is very accepted. And there was a young man that identified as a female and was, you know, she wouldn't even go to the restroom. So, yeah. So I really appreciate you all getting together. But I guess my question is, like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I know she's reading the Bible, you know, I'm trying to read through everything. The course is amazing, Anne. It really is. It's amazing. So I really appreciate that. It's just a matter of sitting down and trying to get focused. This week I'm helping with VBS for a few hours. So I'm just trying to stay focused on what I need to read. And I don't even know where to start. You know.
Oh, Sonia, if you knew how many people are in your shoes right now, I wish we could get them all in one Zoom call or one room at the same time. It's unbelievable how many people, their eyes have been opened because of COVID. And just, it's, the enemy meant it for evil and he took it and turned it around for good. No doubt about that.
I am so grateful.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So I want to share my screen real quick. And okay. I hope I'm not annoying to everyone and saying things over and over again. But if you go up to the top of the website, this roadmap's right here. And this is something we didn't used to have on the site, but this one right here, New Start Here. And I know that you probably heard this, but first of all, I would tell you to take a deep breath, find some time alone with just you and the Father and listen to him. He will tell you what things to concentrate on this year. He will tell you which things are most important and which things can wait. And in our world, we're told everything's important, and it's not. Everything is not important. Only he is important, and he will talk to you. He will speak to you and say, this is what I want you to do. So if you're going through these steps and something on that list adds to what he told you or goes against it, just chuck the Homeschooling Torah list and listen to what he says.
Okay.
But at least practically speaking, I would give yourself, if you are brand new to homeschooling and you've never done this before, and it doesn't matter if your child's in preschool or high school, it's still very overwhelming to homeschool for the first time. I cried my way through my first week of homeschooling, and I still do sometimes, and I've been doing it a long time. Just saying, everyone has those times. But give it some time. I would recommend a week or two to go through this and just step by step, very slowly, just do the next thing. And don't think about, oh my word, everyone's going to be starting school in a few weeks and I'm not ready. It doesn't matter. He's not on our timetable. And besides, we have Sukkot coming up. We're going to take a break and we're going to all have a party anyway. So, yeah, that's what my top advice would be. But anyway, I will stop sharing the screen. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. And by the way, at the top of the website, there's a contact button. You can set up a phone call if you just want to chat with me too. And that goes for anybody. So you did
reply to me. I'll reply back to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sonia, I just want to say thank you for sharing. And I still get overwhelmed. And as I begin to plan for, the new year, starting, I can still feel overwhelmed, and it's not unusual. But Anne, I love what you've done with the website. It looks great. But
it wasn't. We had help.
Wonderful. So when I first started with Homeschooling Torah, it looked a little differently. But I will say that those step-by-steps, Sonia, that she has up there is certainly worth starting with just number one and looking at what's there and looking at what you can utilize from what she's provided. There's so many great pre-prepared things in there for you. And do you still even have like your dinner menu up there too?
Yes, in fact, it's been updated every week.
Wonderful.
Yeah, my 22-year-old daughter does that. She's been working today on the menu for next week, and she really works hard. She goes out online and tries, because she's 22, and so she actually does know how to cook, and we have a big family, so she really puts a lot of heart into that. So if you guys see a good recipe, it's all Caitlin and her doing that job for everybody. But yeah, it's a big help, because we don't have time for everything, and don't think you do. You will not have time for everything. We have a joke around our house that, yes, I wear a head covering because it is a belief of mine, my own conviction, but it also means I don't have to do my hair. It saves me so much time. So there's something that's going to have to give in your life. It maybe you won't have time for this or that, but your priorities are going to be what he puts on you. And I would write them down. I have a planner right here, and I don't know if you guys can see my screen. It's not, I don't know if it's showing, but I just, at the beginning of every week, I go back over the things that he already told us we're supposed to be doing that year with our family. And it may look different. And I go, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that, and I still haven't done that. And it just reminds me. So you're just normal if you need to be reminded.
That's right.
Gabriella, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I saw you had a question in here. I just want to make sure that I have a chance to answer it. She says, what observations do you make as you begin homeschooling that help you choose the order of subjects? Does it matter if you do math before science or language arts before copywork, etc.? And absolutely not, Gabriella, it does not matter. I found for me, from my home, it mattered more what age my children were. The younger children seem to need to do hard things like phonics and math as soon as possible after breakfast before their brains fried. And other years, it was because I had an infant that was nursing. And so we worked around when they tried to guess when they would be eating or sleeping, or it would depend on what day. Here in our town, we have sales on Tuesdays. on clothes. So I will work around my schedule to make sure that we can get to those, not every week, but it sure helps. So no, it doesn't matter. It matters more that your kids are fresh and that they can think because they're not worn out. So one thing you can take from school, you can call it recess or whatever, but do take breaks. Keep your lessons short and take breaks, and don't be afraid to change it up if the order of things is not suiting your family. It's okay. Just blow the whole thing up and start over. And in fact, sometimes people say, well, I read 3 different blog posts on your site and you have the order different each time. And that's because I wrote the blogs on different years and our lives just look different. So yeah, it never looks the same year after year. Now, I think you had some more questions, so I'm going to try to go down in here. So looks like someone was saying that she lets her kids choose what they do after the first subject, I think was Bible. After they do Bible, she lets them choose what they want to do next. That's cool. I think my kids would like that. I've never done that, but that sounds fun. Gabriella says, I printed off the first month of the subjects we'll be doing and put them in a binder. Then how do you do subsequent months? Oh, Kristi and I had this discussion just recently. Do you print the whole year at once, or do you do it week by week or month by month? And that's your personality. I really do believe so. I'm very much a get on the website and print it out every week. I don't like having piles of paper. So I print out and then we just use them that week. I also know, probably because I have the behind the scenes look, when links break on the website, we go in and change them. We actually have new software, which is very nice, that tells us, we get a notification when a link is broken, and they even give us a suggestion of a better link, which is crazy helpful because we have thousands of links on our site. So even still, things break. So one of the reasons, be cautious when you print things out. There may be a link on there that's broken since the time that we put it on the site last. Yes, Kristi, please tell.
Okay, so when I try to do the week to week, I think we've talked about this so many times, our personalities are different, but we end up with papers all over the place. And so, or, the day it's time to print, the printer's not working or something like that. And so I have decided the last year and this year is I'm trying to at least get the first 9 weeks all done at once. And then, or I guess the way it works out is however many are put together based on your months. And but if the links are bad, I'm not going to go sit and type in the link anyway. I'm going to pull it up online, and so it's already going to be changed for me because I'm going to go online to grab it. Just because some of them are like this long.
Yes, they are.
Anyway, if anybody's interested, concerned about the links, I don't ever just type them in. I just go and pull them up. So
right. She asks about moving around between grades 1 through 3 on some subjects for her son. That's what I do. Also, my son that's going to be in 6th grade had some learning problems, and so we had math was way ahead for him and language arts were way behind. And it feels like, I'm going to tell you this little tip. If you've ever noticed, he's growing right now. He grew a couple weeks ago. He grew 1/2 inch in 4 days. We measured him, and then 4 days later, I thought, are you sure we measured right? We measured him again, and he really had grown 1/2 inch. And just like that, none of his pants fit. And so now we were back at the store again. It's the same way in math, and it's the same way in phonics, and it's the same way in history. Sometimes you'll go for a few weeks and nothing sinks in. You're beating a dead horse. Mm-hmm. And yet suddenly, after they eat quite a few snacks and had a good few nights of sleep, they suddenly understand, that fraction that you're trying to explain. And that's, to me, one of the reasons why I don't love printing way ahead, because I never stay on schedule. I always feel like there's something wrong with me because I'm not on week 6 in every subject. And I'm pretty sure that's normal. So one of the things that I do recommend is that you have in your planner, just next to each subject, say what week you're on in that subject, so that when you do go back to the website, you can find where you were. There is the neat little feature where you can bookmark it, but I keep forgetting to use it. So maybe someone else is like me on that. But it helps to have on paper in front of you where you're at in the curriculum. And also, just for the record, you could pull in curriculum from other companies and have that in your planner as well. And they won't arrange it in the same way. So, it's okay to customize everything for your children and your situation that year and their specific needs. And don't feel that you can't do that. So, let me see. Am I missing anyone else's questions? Anyone else want to talk about anything at all? Thank you so much to Laura and Kristi. Where can you get the teacher planner? Let me share my screen real quick because it's easy. We're going to go here and let me start back at the member home because that's where you are when you first log in. And if you come down here to planning forms, they're all right there. And the Together School Planner is what I use. I really do. And you can get a basic version, or if you want to get an Excel version, you can use it with Google spreadsheets if you don't have Excel. And you can customize it, put your kids' names on, put your subjects that you're doing. But if you want to just use the basic one, that's up here too, and little tips on how to use it. So I hope that helped. Any other questions? All right. Okay. I hope I'm going to see you guys all bugging me in the community and saying, we want to get a group started. So although I do want you to pray about it, and I know you all have things on your plate as well. We should be praying for Laura and Kristi as they go about the ministries that they've been called to this year. Very different ministries in their congregations and in their communities. And I think that we all have those callings on our lives. So we need to pray about where we're supposed to be going. How to start a co-op. Someone says they missed how to start it. Well, to start it, we start with prayer and lots of meetings, but prayer is where you start. If he wants you to start it, he will bring the people to you. He will bring the resources to you. He'll bring the building where you're supposed to meet. He'll bring teachers for the classes, but you've got to start it in prayer so that you know it's led by him and not a human effort. So, but yeah, we did talk about it at the beginning. So anything else anyone wants to share before we go? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. We will put a replay link up in the group and out on YouTube as well for anyone that missed it. Chantel, let me answer your question real quick. Is there a way to download the curriculum without downloading it to my computer? Well, I'll show you what I do. I'm using the Firefox browser, and I think this would work in Chrome or any browser that you're using. But if you set your settings for your downloads so that instead of downloading to a file on your computer, it opens up in a new tab, that's what I have. So let's say I'm going to download this this teacher planner here, this Together School Planner. See how it opened right up on my computer? It didn't even download to my computer. So that's all going to be stuck probably in the corner where all of your settings are. Play around in your settings and see if you can find one for downloads and see if there's a way to fix that. And if you can't figure it out, send me an email and I can help you troubleshoot that. So, all righty. Shalom, everybody. And you guys have a great week. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Anne. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Laura.
Bye.